Record. My name is Anuschka Alborzian. I am an empowerment health coach and energy healer, and we do these Healers Talk Mondays. And this is Jacob. Go ahead and introduce.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jacob Moya. I'm sorry for the back noise. I can hear that. It sounds like I'm in a restroom, but I'm in a conference room.
Actually sounds fine. So that's
okay.
Yeah,
That's
on my end.
Good to know. Good to know. And I'm also mainly a researcher, practitioner of all things energy, trying to find out the reasons why our bodies don't work the way they should, and finding shortcuts to get there faster and easier, so we can restore the natural ways of the body. That's my passion. That's what I do.
Yeah, so he really to learn more and more how to heal that, heal the different layers, right? Is what.
Yes, definitely, and make a meaningful, measurable result for the clients. That's
Absolutely. I love it. Yes. And I've learned a lot from Jacob myself. And that's why we've actually incorporated these lives to be able to bring more to you all and have a Q&A with those of you that join us Mondays whenever we're able to go live, right? I'm not saying every Monday anymore because, hey, sometimes it doesn't happen. And today is a topic that I personally really enjoy. And when I learned about it, it blew my mind. And I'm just like, I feel like it changed my life. And so when we started talking about it a bit last week, if in case you guys missed our live, you're more than welcome to go check it out on either YouTube or my Instagram and whatnot. We talked about epigenetics. And so today we thought we should actually have a whole live about epigenetics because it deserves a whole live rather than just giving a little bit about it, right? So that's why I wanted to say let's talk about epigenetics. I personally learned about it, I would say, like just a few years ago, watching some of Bruce Lipton's videos and reading some of his stuff around epigenetics, because apparently he discovered it back in the 80s. I don't know how familiar you are. And then I think like science and doctors were not very much stoked with his discoveries and his research.
Right, and he finally ended up leaving the university as his tenure as a university researcher and professor to be able to focus on all these fascinating things, and it's great. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that medicine is finally getting out of the dark ages, finally transforming themselves. And Dispenza talks a lot about finding a new model. We don't know what that new model is going to be, how we can complement all these different things and put them together, because unfortunately, we've been working during the past, 2,500 years. It depends on how you measure it, but in matters of gaining knowledge for myself and then using that knowledge to either build wealth or to control. And that's a model that we inherit in our generations. But finally, because of that, we keep pushing forward and forward and forward with technology to the point that we now can start measuring all these beautiful things that the mystics and the ancient cultures used to work with. And of course,
the science to it, right?
So right. And so finally, science is getting to the point that personally, I think that they're getting even better than our ancient healers and priests and all that, goddesses and all that thing, because they have instruments to measure specific areas, right? And because they have instruments to measure specific areas, then they can apply all that knowledge and with things like AI, combine all the information from everybody, run through thousands of different models to create something that is more specific and more binding. And it's fascinating. I mean, it's totally fascinating. But one of the things that started this revolution was that concept of epigenetics, right? That it was not necessarily your genes, the ones that you inherited from your parents, that helped you to define your sex, your your gender, your size, your skin color, eyes color, overall health. That is not what is controlling your health. Is just part of it. It's just one component of it. It's like saying that without air we cannot live, or without water we cannot eat, or without food we cannot. Well, yeah, it's just one of the components, but you also need to have all the other components in order to create a living, functioning human being, right? So when it comes to epigenetics, is finally understanding the biology of the person, but based on their environment, based on the way that they think, the way they beliefs that they have, the way that they feed themselves, not only through food, but also internally, right? Like your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, and how all that forces the body to adapt itself to something, to create or reproduce something. And what I find fascinating about all this research is that, the ability that we, through our environment, and I'm not talking only about the things around you, but everything that is your environment, and your most powerful environment is your own body, and your own body is not only composed of muscles and bones and blood, it's also composed of all this energetic being, right? The someone else can catch it, someone else can feel it, and so it creates like amazing things, and amazing hypotheses that are being creating transformations and healings and remissions for so many people, that is just too powerful to ignore, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just writing all these different things down because I want to talk about some of
Sure.
what you're saying and everything. And for those that aren't familiar with epigenetics, and I know you described it, but I also wanted to just read what I found.
Sure. The official definition.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The official definition is that epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. And one of the other things I saw here is with the Greek it's like a Greek prefix of epi, and it says that epi means on top of. So in addition to traditional genetics and the inheritance, but this is like something on top of it. And what I just have learned with epigenetics and just listening to different podcasts and reading different material is, for instance, one of the examples is you take a family, right? And the family, let's say, has two biological kids, but they also have an adopted kid. So down the road, they find out that even though there's no blood or genetic relation with the adopted kid, that kid ends up having the exact same physical symptoms or medical conditions as everyone else in that family, due to the limiting beliefs, due to whatever behaviors that was taught from childhood and the way they were raised, really, more than anything.
Right.
And therefore, it doesn't have anything to do with the genes in that example, right? And they did a lot of studies. I believe Bruce Lipton looked at a lot of different families and noticed that was a pattern. And so then it's like, oh, well, it's learned behavior, right? Rather than the genetics of it.
I usually love to. I mean, there's all kinds of persons, right? All kinds of people. There are people that understand based on science and concepts, and there's other people that understand the concepts when you make it so obvious to them, you know, and that's what I like to do. That's my style, and because that's my style, that's what I like to share with people. And this movie that I constantly talk about, the Big Little Farm, and now there's a series on Apple TV that it says something like the day the Earth something, you know, I don't remember the exact words. I'm gonna find it. And what is amazing is that you can see how nature adapts to what you have, right? To what it has, what you have to work with. You know, it's not like that nature forces itself, but it's more like it adapts itself. And on that movie, on that documentary about the Big Little Farm, I strongly recommend it to everybody, and I usually recommend to the people that I'm working with, because the concept is so clear there. You know, how in this patch of land that was completely dead, after years of caring and changing and bringing it back to original, it became an oasis, right? Where everything was what we call homeostasis, right? Like everything working together, everything fitting together. One type of animal feeding out another type of animal and another type of animal, and everything creates a perfect balance, you know, that creates this perfect place. And how the neighbors, they use usually the other traditional types of farming, or newer types of farming that are with pushing the earth to the limits, you know, to suck in everything so you can create big fruits and vegetables and all this stuff. How when the storms hit them, it was like everything washed out, you know, and how they were so subject to the changes of the environment, and they couldn't defend themselves. So it's exactly the same inside of our body. You know, when we have a perfect environment inside of us, regardless of what happened around you, you're gonna be in a better position to be able to withstand the changes. You know, and that is something that I consider very, very unique, very beautiful, because it allows you to, first of all, not only to have hope, but to do something about it, right? To create something, to do something for you, not for others, but for you, you know, to take a charge on the things that you can control, and then start creating that new environment to manifest the change. When that change is gonna happen, well, it's gonna take time, but it's not gonna take like forever. And the alternative is always worst, you know. So yeah, definitely this is something that you may want to experience. The year the Earth changed. That's the name of the documentary in Apple TV. The year Earth changed.
Is it a documentary?
It's a documentary, yeah. But it goes through all the world and all the things that happened when everybody was on lockdown. You know, how nature started responding, how species that were disappearing start to grow again. But like I said, it was just a small break, you know, because it wasn't like a huge break. It wasn't like we give it a break for years. It wasn't even a year, an entire year, you know, it was just a few months. And that was enough to start creating these different changes inside of us, you know, well, in the environment, and therefore inside of us, you know.
Right.
So it's magnificent. For me, it's fascinating because I play with a microscope. I get to see live cells and dry blood analysis, and I get to see the things right there. You know, I get to see how when people start transforming things, how it starts transforming their own blood, you know, and how everything changed. And it's fascinating. It's incredible. Like in my own personal case, when I first saw my cells, it was like, oh my God, this is all the junk food that I've been eating, you know. It is called fermentation. It's full of spikes, awful, awful, awful blood. And then I went into a month, not changing my diet that much, but supplementing at the right times, you know, getting it early in the morning as first food. These supplements that we sell here at the center that have everything on it. And then I checked my blood and it was like, whoa, you know, it cleaned up itself in a month. Usually it takes 3 months to replace all your cells, but still, you know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then I start playing with iodine because on one analysis I noticed that I needed iodine, and I took 1 capsule of iodine and wasn't doing that much for me. And I checked myself again, and I saw that I still needed more. So I started taking 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And I didn't know what I was taking it for. I have the idea that regulates your stomach acid and your mood and all that stuff. But my God, you know, when I was going to the restroom, it was beautiful. It was effortless. It was just like having like a feeling of, maybe I want to go to the restroom there, but you know what? Yeah, I better go right now. And you go to a restroom and it's like creating art. You know, it's like, what? You know, this is incredible. And you know, it's amazing, but it's about the same. You know, it was just creating a simple change, something, a little trick, and it really recreate everything. And of course, I'm sharing with you guys what I am noticing, but there's other parts of my body that I am not noticing that are getting affected by it, you know, that are getting changed by it, you know.
And
it's
that can be with just not just supplements. It can even be with thoughts, right? Because that's one of the
it's
things that's
incredible.
like huge. It's huge when we have, and again, like especially with epigenetics, right? I know one of
Yes.
the things I had a consultation session with someone a couple years ago, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, and she was very much like, she had I believe she had at that point, she had, I want to say no, she had stomach cancer and they removed her stomach, and then the next, it was at that point, I believe she had liver cancer, and both her mom and her grandma had died of stomach cancer. So
Oh wow.
she was saying that as since she was a
This
kid,
is it.
that I'm gonna get stomach cancer as a kid, like at a young age, right? And so no, there's no
Manifested.
coincidence that she got the stomach cancer, and she couldn't even hear anything I had to, because when I was explaining some of this stuff to her, and I could tell she was skeptic, so I was definitely being very I guess sugarcoating in a sense, because I didn't want to just be like, hey, look, you can change your life. But she didn't want to hear it because in her mind, this is like at least what I got from it. I'm like, if she feels like it's possible to heal from this, then her mom and grandma could have healed too.
Are wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, at that point, she of course never reached out again.
Right.
And I don't know how she's doing. Hopefully,
Right.
figure things out.
Right. It's those are the loyalties that we are carrying over so many times, you know, and we're bringing over into our lives, and it's so devastating to see that that kind of thing happens. But we notice it all the time.
It could be even something like, I mean, I hear this, when we go and fill out doctor forms, right? Does anybody in your family have high blood pressure or this or that, right? And so
Yeah.
that gets reiterated and it becomes that narrative of like, oh, well, my family had high blood pressure, therefore I need to watch it, which you're already saying that most likely I'm going to get it by saying that.
Right.
I try to tell my mom this, but it's still, it's just like, no, there's just certain things. I'm like, the root of it, right? The root of look at that, it's like getting to the root is the heart. And it's like, well, then there's heartbreak from the lineage, and that needs to be clear.
Right.
So it's just interesting because
it is
can actually change. even though we got the genes, but we can still change the way we live our life.
Right. Like Henry Ford used to say, right? If you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. You know, it's like, yeah.
I love that saying.
But it's up to everybody. You know, it's finding your time, finding your moment, and finding a system that pretty much match where you are. You know, and that is the most difficult thing. We talked about this before, I think in the conversation before. You know, it's the vibration level where you are, the one that brings things at your level, and everything that is above that level or below that level, it's hard for you to understand it, to get it, to apply it, because it's not matching your vibration. That doesn't mean that it's not right or it's not true. You know, it's just a matter of being able to raise your level of vibration to that new reality and open yourself up to receive and restore whatever it is that you need to receive and restore. And it works always like that. That's the magic of the workshops, you know, because it's like when I do my meditation on my own, and we have a group of people that we get together to meditate. Like today is the open invitation for everybody who wants to join us. But when we do it together, it is different. I cannot pinpoint what it is, but it's the environment that we are creating, the one that is doing this transformation for all of us, you know, and we take it to different levels of awareness and going deeper and deeper all the time. And it's just because the environment supports that. You know, it's we all feel safe, and we all want to experiment and experience different things. So we just jump into it and we start doing it, and it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. But like I said, it's up to you guys.
Oh, right? Absolutely. And yeah, and what I notice as well, because they just feel a lot more powerful. And in general, even going to workshops or seminars or anything like that, I can feel a difference just because of the energy of so many people that are like-minded in that vibrational match. And what comes to my mind is ants, right?
Yeah.
So ants want to carry, let's say, like, just go there because I've actually witnessed this. Like cockroaches, right? Like there was a dead cockroach. I'll never forget this in Iran. And within a day, they moved it from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall because they all worked on it together, and they just were like one big community. Yeah. But I know not to compare us to ants, but hey, living beings, right? And they took it all the way to the end of the other wall. And then all of a sudden the next morning it was gone. And I'm like, wow, look at that teamwork, right? And that's what just doing seminars, workshops, meditations like tonight, having a group session, it's just that much more powerful because we have multiple energies involved in that way. So
right. Yeah, I remember sharing this last week, but it's worth to mention it again, and how the environment really creates change. I was sharing that when I was going to Dispenza's meditations, it was a little bit challenging for me because I'm not used to getting guided. I'm not used to have music on it, and I'm not used to following instructions. You know, I just go all in, or I provide instructions. And so the first couple of days it was challenging, you know, and then eventually I said, you know what, everybody else here is following him. They all are doing the things what he says, so I just need to follow the energy of the room, you know, and I'll be there. And it was a total shift, a total transformation, because instead of paying attention to the words that he was saying, I was feeling the music and feeling the changes and going with everybody else through those changes. And it really, really, really worked. You know, it was great. And so it's one more proof of how the environment, when you are not in sync with the environment can affect you and force you to react. Like, for example, I could say, you know what, it's not for me, it's just a waste of time, that they're too low for me. You know, I need like a group of people that are more developed in order for me to work with them. So instead of doing that, you know, I just surrender to the experience and allow myself to feel the energy, and then everything starts shift, you know, and I had a blast, you know, I have such a good time and experience, and releases as well, releases, you know, stuff that was still holding me, left my body, and it was because of that, because I allow that the environment, contributing to the environment, took me carry over, modify what was not matching that vibration, and it just came out, you know, and it's beautiful. So it's the same for everybody else, and that's what basically what epigenetics focuses on. You know, it's pay attention to your environment, pay attention deeply, you know, and the type of TV series that you like to see, you know, try to avoid watching them late at night before you go into sleep, you know, because you need to be able to disconnect and digest of that stuff, and bring some content that is meaningful for whatever it is that you're doing or you're working with, you know. Try to bring it over to your life, and then feed your mind out of that, you know, and feed your food in a more conscious way, right? In a more like mindful way, like being in the present, just enjoying what you're doing. Absolutely. Instead of allowing your mind to wandering around, so you can create a different environment through food inside of you.
Yeah. And then with the, so something for me that I noticed, because I used to love watching scary movies, and I don't at all anymore. And especially because I noticed what it does. And I had that before, but it just, I didn't have the awareness of what it's doing to my body when I'm getting like startled and like all the freaking out. And so I personally don't watch them anymore. Now, if I were to watch something action-wise, one thing I do notice is that it has to be before it's nighttime. And I always have to watch something else afterwards. And I notice if I don't do that, like comedy or something light, or something that's higher energy. If I don't do that, my dreams the entire night will consist of that movie.
Related to the movie.
Oh
yeah.
I get good night's sleep, and I just won't do that to me anymore, right? I know there's people that are like, well, I have to watch something at night. It's like, that's fine. Watch something at night. Just watch something that's like, if anything, high vibing, not too much mind space, and something funny. That's always good, right? Comedy of something. Something that's really. I've been taking on the mind movies. So I've been doing those. It's 30.
Excellent.
Almost done with creating my own version. So.
Excellent. I just finished mine, my new version over the weekend as well. You know, and it took me a while because it takes a little bit of time to think what is it that you want to experience, and then putting all the pieces together and the music together, and especially when that is not my forte, you know, it takes me a little bit longer. But I was able to do it, and it was important for me to do it because now I discover not just the process, but I get more into it. You know, I have an emotional connection towards the project, right? And definitely this is something that you want to experience and do, you know, just bring that information into your mind before you go into sleep, and go all in. And after you come out of a meditation, you know, you got your mind moving, you play it, you know, just transforming your environment. That's what we are doing, you know, it's transforming our environment constantly. So eventually we are on the other side, you know, we end up in the other side. And that's the purpose of all these things that we are doing, you know. It's like I said, I research a lot and love to try crazy things that sometimes they work, sometimes they're just a bust, you know. It's like after days and days and days and days and probably months of trying something, it's like, no, this is just a total bust. You know? But right now I have I ordered what is it called? An stethoscope, an inalambric or Bluetooth stethoscope, and to record the beatings of the heart, and to incorporate that into my mind movie, into my meditations, into the things that are needed, you know. But I haven't been able to record the information without noises, you know, because it's difficult. It's difficult to get it without noises. But yeah, it's a process. It's a process of trying to find ways to create an environment that supports the genes that I want to trigger, and then deregulate or start giving power to the genes that I don't want to get activated, you know.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of that, that was when you were talking about just the stethoscope, and then also just the blood that you do. I was curious, have you ever tried, you know how like Bruce Lipton, I'm sure you've heard, where he's taken cells and put it in some, what you did with me.
I culture,
yeah, and then take it away from the body, and then seeing what the cells do when, for instance,
when the person is under treatment. There is a change. I haven't find a dramatic change like I was told, but it's I think it's getting to the time where I can try it again. What brings me to this type of experiment is that a person that was sharing this with me mentioned about when he was learning live blood analysis, they took a sample, and one of the persons needed to go, and he was on a motorcycle, and then he got in an accident and he died. And he says that they were studying his cells at the point, and when he know what happened, you know, just like what happened to the cells, you know, that they're still dying. And he was like, maybe it's too old, the sample, or what is it? And everybody was, no, it's not that old. We don't know. And then eventually they find out that the person got into an accident and he died. And he was like, what? You know? And the same thing with acupuncture or with the magnets, you know, when you are working with biomagnetism or all the other things, the cells start getting awakened. But what I see very clearly all the time is if I take the blood sample before, and I can record that information on the computer, and then after the treatment, you know, it's a dramatic change. It's like the cells become alive. They're moving, and it's like, actually on the screen, they don't look that neat because the camera have a delay. So you just see like shadows running from one side to another. But if you see on the microscope itself, it's beautiful.
It's really cool.
It's beautiful.
I remember one of the things that Bruce Lipton, sorry for all the noise. I don't know. It's just,
that's all right. I can barely hear it.
They even took the cells, a sample 50 miles away. And I don't know what this motorcycle guy, for instance, like how far the distance was, but
no, I have no idea.
Like up to 50 miles, and they've even noticed that it will do the same even at that distance because it's still connected to the body. But that's really interesting. That one I hadn't heard, with the person dying and then the cells are
also the cells dying. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, I mean,
the iceberg, I feel like, when it comes to science, and I'm excited to see that now with quantum physics and Joe Dispenza and other people like Bruce Lipton. I'm sure there's so many others that are now doing a lot more, like yourself, doing the research and really starting to bring science to all these unexplainable, I would just say, unexplainable from the science perspective, right? And now there's explanation and evidence for it. And that's what I'm excited about more than anything.
Yeah, actually, I don't remember if I shared with you guys this last time, but at the workshop, at the Dispenza workshop, they have the researchers from the University of California, San Diego, and they are the ones that were checking the blood, right, seeing the blood and how it works and all that good stuff, and they show us how they recreated through the blood the proteins that were necessary to create the same type of tissue that we carry on the lungs, but on the lab, right? And they apply COVID type of, it wasn't COVID itself, because he says that regulation don't allow you to play with that. You need a special equipment, special environment in order for you to play. But they took the proteins of COVID, and they just put the proteins next to it and see what happened. And they have three different examples. One of the examples was a long-term meditator, then a new meditator, and then a regular person. And he mentioned how amazing it was to see, and we saw it, the images from the microscope, how the person that was just a regular person with the COVID proteins took over the entire thing. On the new meditator, it was like half and half. But on the long-term meditator, they couldn't. It was like two of the cells were able to go in and host themselves inside of the tissue of the lung, but everything else was like rejected, and eventually died. And it was like, what? I mean, to the point that the researchers themselves were taking the seminar for themselves, because they were so impressed and they didn't have a scientific explanation about it. And he says that it's amazing. It's amazing what's going on. And once again, it's creating an environment through meditation to bring you to peace, to an easy state. Most of the sickness comes from stress, from the sympathetic mode. And you can actually feel it, because we feel it here on the shoulders, if you are tense, or like when I talk to people and they're like, yeah, it's because I'm here and I don't have time and I have to do all these things. Well, that's adrenaline, right? And it's like a stress reaction, and they don't sleep well, and they don't eat well, and they don't process food well. And so they are not living well, but they are solving all these different tasks and processes. But it's a game, eventually down the road, having that pressure over your organs by not feeding the amounts of energy and clean fluids, inside of your organs, eventually it's gonna take a toll on you, and part of the toll is precisely a symptomatic reaction, a health symptomatic reaction. Your body's gonna react, is gonna do something to try to catch your attention. It's gonna create something else, so that's those are the things that we can nuts.
Yeah, and it's like, it's people don't realize with the adrenaline, it's like I didn't. I had no idea that, and especially the amount of caffeine I was having.
Oh yeah.
Of it, right? But I realized after doing my own research and just knowing that my body would just go into this fatigue mode at a certain time in the afternoons, and I didn't understand what was going on until I'm like, oh yeah, it's the amount of caffeine, even though it was healthy caffeine, right? But it was still too much of it. And when I started doing that research, and it's like, yeah, our body, the adrenaline gets released, and then cortisol gets released. And well, I believe actually cortisol gets released, and then adrenaline gets released, which gets you to like get into that like let's go mode, right? Which is what caffeine does for you. And one of the things that I started realizing, I'm like, oh, this is why I think some people procrastinate. I've been wanting to actually write about this, because I'm realizing, I'm like, they procrastinate because they want to wait until they're in that stress mode because that stress mode is
They
going to
become efficient.
boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that way they can actually get it done a lot quicker. And I'm like, what do you know what you're doing to your body?
Yeah. That's my point when I work with executives. You know, it's like that. It's like, oh, I love when I am so effective and solving all these problems, and they rush in satisfaction that they solve, that they feel afterwards when everything gets done. Well, yeah, but the cost is humongous, you know, and on top of everything, you are focusing on the worst case scenario instead of focusing on the possibilities and all the things that can happen out of this experience. You just focus on the worst case scenario, you try to avoid it, and you think that you accomplish so much by avoiding it, when in reality, you're missing all the opportunities that were all around you, you know, ready for you. You know, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And I think that's the reason why we live just a few years, you know, instead of living up to 100 in a very lucid mind. This is like people die at 70, 80, you know,
Right.
if not sooner, because of a heart attack. And it's just because of the stress of the efficient that we want to be in order for us to get recognition from our peers, you know, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
The autopilot, and that's, you know, I really do see with the consciousness of the planet raising and the people, right? People are actually now, oh, meditate. You would tell meditation people before, and they're like, what is that course that you're doing? Or I even remember when I started talking about law of attraction, when I first started, you know, back in 2007, I would get laughed at work when I'm like, oh, this changed my life. And they just look at me like I'm crazy. And now it's like, people didn't even know what it was back then. And now it's like, it's become like, it's part of the vocabulary. Everybody knows law of attraction. You can't even say you've heard it. It's like, yeah, of course I have. Like that now, it's such a different place that we are these days. And I believe that's why people are awakening more up to their spirit and what serves their spirit, what to be more conscious, to be more aware of mind, body, spirit, right? And I do believe that in itself will have, and back to epigenetics, will have a direct impact on our bodies and the genetics within our bodies by having a difference in thought, changing our environment, right? Choosing what we watch. Like, I don't watch the news. I can like literally feel low vibrations like this as soon as something is on. Like, for instance, Sebastian's watching something that I'm like, I can't do it. I have to like either walk out or like, please change it. And and I used to allow myself to just sit through it rather than say, no, I'm not gonna put my body through this. So
no, totally. I get you totally, because I know how it is, and it's devastating what's doing for people, you know, and I notice here at the center how many people, they come here and they want us to do something for them, but they don't want to change anything in their life. So it's again epigenetics, right? They're not changing their environment. They change when they come here because the environment is different. But then they go back to the same environment that they were. It's just a matter of time before they go back to the same, you know? So
it's not just internal. It's like you got to change your external, the people you're around. So much of my life has changed, and I'm much happier now because of it. And I still continue to say, hey, the universe knows and will show me signs. The spirit knows when someone is not in my vibration, and just they end up falling off on their own. I don't even have to do anything about it. It's beautiful. So we're coming up on time. I really wanted to also just reiterate that we're having our meditation this evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those of you interested in joining, you can Venmo Jacob $20. It's amazing. Every time I feel like I get something profound, whether I'm in like a super deep meditation where Jacob has to wait for me to come back, or when I actually allow the guidance to go through, it is powerful. And I highly recommend anyone out there that's interested, and if it resonates with them, to join us, check it out, see what it does for you, and really just take on meditation into your life on a daily basis.
Definitely, guys, and it's more than just meditation. You know, we practice and we learn how to release energies, how to bring yourself back to balance, and these are exercises that can help you at any time, you know, at any point. And my objective is to teach you how to do the things for yourself without the help of any equipment or anything else, you know, so you can be free to do it, free to apply them. Definitely.
Very powerful stuff. Yeah, clear your, I was gonna also, yeah, clear your aura, rebalance your chakras. I mean, these are very powerful exercises, and easy. It's not difficult whatsoever. Sometimes people are like, exercise. No, you're not going out there running and huffing and puffing. No, it's an exercise you can, it's like more of a routine that you can take into your life on a daily basis. So let's,
definitely.
if you have questions, go ahead and shoot us some questions. Otherwise, you can message either of us to learn how to join. I will be sharing the links on how to make the payment to Jacob. Otherwise, yeah, if you have any additional questions, just let us know.
All right.
All right.
Well, it was a pleasure being here, guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And one of my favorite topics.
See you next time.
Bye. Till next time.
Take care. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.